episode 1 of Hot Takes with the Justice League. We are your hosts, Logan and Jacob.
I'm Logan.
I'm Jacob, if you couldn't tell.
Justice League, as you know, JL. Well, without further ado, I guess we're going to get into our hot takes. So cheers. And let's get into it.
So, we have about 6 hot takes so far.
Yeah.
Right? So, our first one is going to be about the X-Men. So, as many Marvel and just fiction enjoyers know, there's not a lot of live action media revolving around the X-Men. And I think there needs to be more.
I agree. And these are takes that we both agree and disagree about. But, there's the Fox X-Men movies, which range from really great, like X-Men First Class, to really bad, like X-Men The Last Stand and Dark Phoenix.
Sorry on those.
So, I agree with you. And this all launched from a conversation that we had about live action and how my opinion, that I don't think is really a hot take because we love these characters so much, is that we need more shows focused on these bigger characters. I use Spider-Man as an example. But the X-Men are a really good example, especially since Coy Jandreau, if you know him from online, talked about his idea for a Wolverine series taking place between different decades. And I think that that's just so interesting for the character.
Yeah.
Knowing the character, knowing the comics. You talked about Sabretooth. Which I would love to hear some of your ideas about that. But I think that Sabretooth, because of his whole ruining Logan's life every birthday, I think works fantastic for that type of story.
Yeah. Another thing I would like to see more of is the early days of the X-Men. You know, when Professor X, when he first starts the school, when he first forms the X-Men, right? Like, almost like a Batman Year One just for the X-Men, because we've seen the early days of the Avengers. Yeah. We've seen, the earlier days of the Fantastic Four, but we don't have a lot to go off of live action-wise for the X-Men, especially if you're somebody that is new to comics, nerd media and stuff. Live action shows, movies, I think those are a great place to start, especially if you're so overwhelmed with the vast majority that there are of comic books. Especially with, Batman is a big one. There are so many different renditions and runs, and it's super overwhelming to try and start.
Well, we'll get into it with a segment that we have yet to show. But, your favorite Batman run of all time is Court of Owls, right?
I love it. It is so good.
And talking about just runs in general, what differentiates Marvel and DC is Marvel has never had a reboot. So, especially getting into Marvel Comics is really tough. Because, there's just so much. But a good rule of thumb that I've heard from a YouTuber I really like called Troyoboyo17, he basically said, you're not going to know everything.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the important thing to think about going into comics is sure, you may know who all the different Robins are, but for all you know, you're picking up a comic that's like Batman and Robin Year One that just came out last year, where you're picking it up and it's in the middle of Dick Grayson's first year. One of the best things about comics is the fact that they're not serialized necessarily,
Yeah.
which is great, but also, like you were talking about, it's hard to get people into that. So I agree with you. You know, animation, movies are both good ways to get into it, but also the ways that people are getting into it now, which is what makes it so difficult when it's stuff that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that also in our segment. I would like to play a game with you for this first X-Men segment. If
I'll be
you're
able to.
so, what we're going to do is we're going to give 7 members
Uh-huh.
that we would like to be a part of the first MCU team.
So, my first member, right? I think it is a very solid base, especially for a MCU X-Men, Cyclops. He is one of the major faces of the X-Men as a whole, right? We don't see a whole lot of him or get to know him in the Fox movies. So I think he is a really good first start for an MCU X-Men.
Agreed. My first is going to be Storm. I think that she is very important to the team, especially if you watch shows like X-Men Evolution and obviously X-Men 97.
Yeah.
She is very important to the team. She was not a part of the original Jack Kirby Stan Lee team, but I feel like she really has earned her place as a part of that initial team.
Yeah. You know, I completely agree. Storm, especially with what I've read, what I've watched, she is such a major role within the X-Men. She is a really notable face, especially within, a female community because she represents that, females can be more than just what media has had them to be. Especially when Marvel was starting out, X-Men, all of that stuff. There was a lot of women oppression
Yeah,
back then, right? So having Storm be such a prominent face for women representation and just
African American representation.
yeah, African American representation, it is I think a really great start.
Agreed.
So my second pick is Beast. He is the strategist. He has a level of intellect that just is hard to rival. He is quick on his feet. He knows how to get his team and other people out of situations that seem near impossible,
Yeah.
right? He has battle strategy, he has, rescue strategy, all of this. So I think having him as the second member and the brains of the X-Men would be really good.
So we're talking about seconds.
Yeah.
I think my second is going to be. I think my second is going to be Rogue. I think her story is very important, and I think she kind of serves as a basis of the team that's interesting because of her backstory. I think knowing the MCU and some of the movies that they've done post Endgame and stuff like that, there are origin stories, but these characters are already kind of established.
Yeah.
And I think Rogue being already a part of the team and having a backstory with like Mystique and the Brotherhood of Mutants, I think is interesting and would add turmoil that I think is always kind of subjected towards Magneto and Xavier's relationship. So I think it would just add depth.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good one. Rogue's a solid pick.
Thank you.
So stop looking at me. My third pick, right? This might be, people might not agree. I think Nightcrawler should be on this MCU team, right? Um, from what I've seen in the comics, he brings a lot of comedic relief, right? He is there for, people when times are tough, especially after anything with Magneto. Magneto's a bitch.
Cheers to that.
But, Nightcrawler, he's just a fun character. You know, a good, like, representation of him, especially with what we have as filmmaking today, would
Yeah.
be great. There are so many great writers out there. We have, James Gunn. There, we could even include comic writers like Scott Snyder,
Scott
right?
Snyder's a good example, yeah.
He is a phenomenal writer, and I feel like, if you really were to have the right minds come together, Nightcrawler could be greatly represented within the MCU.
Agreed. So it's funny, I actually it's it's kind of a disagreement, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think necessarily he should be on the initial, but I do like your reasoning. My next one is actually going to be Cyclops, like you said. I think X-Men 97 really showed a general audience that Scott Summers is a leader.
Yeah.
And is important to the X-Men. And I think we agree on this with what we talked about off pod. But I don't think Wolverine should be a part of this initial team. I think that Scott Summers is so important to what the X-Men are and is kind of a prime example of what a leader in the MCU can be. So yeah, Scott Summers is my second for all of the reasons that you said, because he is so important to the team and to what the X-Men represent. So yeah.
Yeah. Also, do you mean third? We're going on to our fourth.
Yeah.
So, my fourth, right? Is Colossus. He is, especially, kind of going off of what you said with Scott Summers, he is such a strong foundation and a leader for a team, especially with mutants of all kinds, right? He has an unmovable mindset. I mean, he pretty much is. He's made fully metal, you know? So I feel like Colossus would be a really good addition to the initial team because he's such a grounded individual. What we've seen in live action with like the Deadpool movies, he's great in them.
Yeah.
Right? He obviously Deadpool has a part to play in it, but he's funny, right? He's just overall a really solid leader and character to have, especially a part of a team with so many different personalities and powers and just everything.
Agreed. So my next one is going to be Jean Grey.
Okay.
I think that her story is so essential, and I feel like we haven't been able to really see her outside of her being turning into a villainous character. In X-Men 97, you have her become Madeline Pryor. In both Fox X-Men stories, you have her become Phoenix. You also have that in the X-Men animated series. So I think that we need to just see Marvel Girl Jean Grey as Jean Grey.
Yeah.
And that's who Sadie Sink is being rumored to play in Spider-Man Brand New Day. So I do think that she's going to be a part of this initial team. I don't think you can really do it without her.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I like Jean Grey. She, like you said, we don't see a whole lot of her being a on the good side of things. She's always on the dark side of the moon, or the tail side of the coin.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think seeing her as or with good representation, especially with these earlier years, this initial team would be great.
Agreed.
Right. So that's going into my fifth one. Yeah. Angel. Right.
Okay.
We really don't see him, right? We see him in The Last Stand and Apocalypse, but we don't see him as Angel.
Yeah.
We don't get the full experience of who he is as a person, who he is as a mutant, and how he contributes to his team. Right? We've seen in the comics a really good renditions of Angel, and I think with that kind of, what's the word, representation in a live action initial team would be absolutely great.
Agreed. So my fifth is going to be Beast. You said that he was the strategist, and that's right on the nail. But I also think Jean Grey is the heart of the team in a lot of ways, but I also think Beast is as well. I think he is so important to the team in so many ways that isn't given credit. I think, and obviously, he's not on mine because I think it's a given. But Charles Xavier, Professor X, is the crux of what brings the team together.
Yeah.
But I think in my version of what this team is, most certainly him and Aurora Storm would be the original two that were kind of Xavier's first students.
Yeah.
Especially since I do think that those two should be older than the rest of the team. So, yeah, that's my fifth pick is Beast.
That's a good one. So, I don't know if we can really count this, but my sixth, right, is Xavier. Without him, the X-Men wouldn't be a thing. Without Xavier, his school, right, wouldn't be a thing, and you would have rampant mutants with their powers not having any kind of control, right? We wouldn't see Cyclops for who he is, right? If we did see him without the leadership of Xavier, right, he would be this young adult with no kind of support system, especially with such a destructive mutation like his, right? And without his ruby glasses, it's really, Xavier is such a key centerpiece of the X-Men team, and without Xavier, it wouldn't be a thing.
So my sixth, right?
Yeah.
My sixth is going to be oh my god, it was just there. My sixth is going to be, let's see. So I got Rogue, Gambit, or no, Rogue, Scott. Oh, Angel, like you said. I do think that he is a interesting look at the X-Men.
Yeah.
And by the way, you can have Xavier in your team if you want. I'm not including him because he's not out in the field with them. But yeah, Angel is a very interesting look because he is an example of that wealthy side where he's wealthy and his dad finds out that he's a mutant and he's like, get the fuck out. And I think that that's such an interesting story, especially for the allegory that the X-Men are, which is just oppression from racism, from homophobia, which is going to be important for my next one, but that's besides the point. So yeah, Angel.
Yeah. So going into our last one, right? It's one that you've already said is Jean Grey. Like you said, she's the heart of the group, right? She really, especially like with what I said with Nightcrawler, she helps keep things lighthearted, right? And another thing, like you said, right? We only see the bad side of her. We don't see really much good representation of who Jean Grey could be. And there's so many issues with her that we've seen, but I feel like with enough time and enough of seeing who she can be, right, she would be a really great addition to the initial team.
Agreed. My final one is Bobby Drake Iceman.
Okay.
He, I believe, was a part of the original team in the comics. But not only that, I feel like Bobby is a good look at a person who is, he's gay in the comics. He recently came out a few years ago, probably like, God, it might have been 10 years ago at this point.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, Bobby is he's kind of that fun, youthful energy
Yeah.
brought to the team. And I feel like compared to somebody like Rogue, who is a little bit more like, for lack of a better term, edgy,
Yeah.
and brings more of that emotional turmoil, I feel like a lot of Bobby's character would bring some more of that fun, youthfulness into the group that I think is so important for X-Men stories. So, yeah. So I guess that makes my final group Storm, Beast, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Rogue, Angel, and Iceman.
Yeah. That would bring mine to be Cyclops, Beast, Angel, Jean Grey, Xavier, Colossus, and where's my last one?
Who'd you say again?
Whoever the last one was, they'll know.
Yeah, editor, it's probably going to be either me or Raph. Go ahead and put that. But yeah, I think that, and obviously the teams would grow. Yeah. I think that, Colossus would definitely become part of mine. By extension of that, Kitty Pryde, their relationship is so great. And also Gambit, obviously.
Yeah.
To connect with that Rogue piece. And, there's some cool characters that you can throw in along the way. Emma Frost has an interesting relationship with Cyclops, stuff like that. So, yeah, what's our next thing?
Our next thing is, hold on, the new Superman, the James Gunn run of Superman is better as a movie than Endgame.
So that's mine.
That's his.
That's mine. Not Infinity War. Infinity War is a very solid movie. It's a great movie.
Really?
And it's a great beginning of the end.
Yeah.
But Endgame, I feel like, and a lot of people have said this online, Endgame struggles with being a movie on its own.
Yeah.
Because it's a part 2, for one. But for 2, it relies a lot on your knowledge of the MCU.
Yeah.
Superman is the opposite. It is the beginning of a new universe. And it's maybe another hot take. I think that Superman's better than Iron Man.
Yeah.
But as far as Endgame goes, I think, yes, the highs are higher. But also, because of that struggle of being a movie, I think really brings it down from a first viewing experience. Well, not first viewing necessarily, but like I think we saw Endgame together, right?
I think so, yeah.
I will never forget the moment that, spoilers for a 7-year-old movie,
Okay.
when Captain America gets Mjolnir,
Yeah.
the theater erupted.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody was going fucking crazy. And, I think that that's great. And really important. I mean, I've been making movies for a long time, and I think that the thing that made me want to make movies was watching Endgame in theaters and going, wow, an audience can feel like this. Well, maybe I want to make a movie like this one day.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But with that being said, we did not see Superman. Well, I watched Superman with you for your first time.
Yeah.
I went to go see Superman in the theater. And I had a similar experience, but going to see Superman 2025, I was in two mindsets. One, please let this be better than Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Two, holy shit, that score is awesome.
Yeah.
And I remember when the score came out, and just hearing the John Williams theme again, but in a different way. I loved it. So them watching it in theaters and having followed the entire production really amplified it for me in a lot of ways. Also, again, just as a film, like we were talking about, I think that it works for non-superhero fans, and I think that it works for superhero fans.
Yeah.
So I guess, what do you think?
I honestly agree. Endgame, don't get me wrong, it's a great movie. I personally enjoyed watching it. It was, great fights, great, everything. But like you said, it's not a good standalone, right? You have to have prior knowledge, predating years, you know, to understand a lot of what happens in Endgame.
Yeah.
Right? And as more of a Batman fan myself, I haven't indulged in much Superman media. Watching Guns' Superman was honestly a great experience. I loved everything that happened. I loved the score. Everything just it felt like what a true Superman movie should be.
Yeah.
Superman is a sign of hope, integrity, peace, right? And seeing that actually be accomplished in a movie was great. You know, I, going, based off of what you said with the Man of Steel, you know, while there's so many things wrong with it, it's not a technical horrible in quotations movie, right? If you like, the grungier side of what Superman has been, if you like seeing that darker side of a man who is constantly living up or trying to live up to being a symbol of peace, then Man of Steel is for you.
Yeah.
But being Superman and being who he is, it means you have to bring that light. You have to bring people up when they really are feeling down. And Guns' Superman movie just really did that for me. It showed me what a good Superman adaptation is supposed to be. And I love that, it's great as a standalone movie, but it could honestly build off of, other movies if Gunn continue or well not if when Gunn continues his verse. And so I really just think Superman was a phenomenal live action adaptation of what Superman is supposed to be. Because what we've seen in like animated movies, shows, back the 2001 Justice League show, one of the greatest animated shows of all time. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah.
Right? We see Superman be that hope. We see him be who he is meant to be.
Be the bee you're supposed to be.
Right? And seeing that with David Cornsweet was just so great. And I think, great writing, great acting, great dialogue, especially when there are, more of these somber moments. Especially, not especially, when we were in that pocket dimension, right? With
Metamorpho and
forgot his
Crypto.
name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It was such a somber time, especially with hearing about Metamorpho's kid and how he's just been taken from him, and it brings you to a low, but then it builds you up to such a great high, and I love that, and it was so like whimsical.
Yeah. And I think, we could have a whole video just where we talk about Superman.
Yeah.
But, thinking about it is so sad that Henry Cavill didn't really get a chance to play the Superman that he should have been.
Oh yeah.
But talking about David Cornsweet, phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
And Gunn's writing really showed me, as a writer who's making his own DC universe, Superman, while being that symbol of hope, still has emotions like us.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the greatest line in that entire movie is people are going to die. And that entire scene is really building to that point. And how David plays it, where he's kind of thinking about it childishly, and then he shows why to Lois. I think that that's just perfectly Superman.
Yeah.
And we hadn't really seen that. Also, just taking a second before we move on to praise Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll talk about it a little bit in the other segment that I keep on referring to.
Yeah.
But Lex Luthor, in my opinion, has never really been done right. He was a dude who owned land, who was trying to I don't even remember what he's trying to do in Superman 78, to be honest. Gene Wilder's a great actor, but I just didn't really feel it.
Hell, he had hair at one point.
Yeah, he's wearing a fucking wig.
I know.
I don't think but my point is, I don't think Lex Luthor has really been done well, other than Smallville.
Yeah.
And obviously animated shit. But yeah, and then looking at this movie, I'm like, that's Lex Luthor. Like, he is such a hater for this alien because everybody loves him. Mm-hmm. And Lex feels like that's just not fair.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so interesting, and Holt does such a fantastic job at portraying that.
Yeah. So, wrapping up with Superman, again, great standalone movie. In the terms of what I think a movie should be, it far surpasses Endgame.
Yeah.
Right? Don't get me wrong, Endgame, it was a great movie, right? Great cinematics, just, what a Marvel movie should be, especially with the ending of an end.
Yeah.
Right? But Superman, he is the beginning of something new, something we haven't seen before, and it far surpasses my expectations and what the expectations I had for Endgame was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, going on to our next topic, this is another one of Logan's, is that the Phantom Menace is not important for the Star Wars timeline.
Fuck the Phantom Menace, first of all.
Okay.
You like the Phantom Menace?
I think it's a good movie, right? I can understand where you're coming from, where it doesn't really fit within the timeline, but as a movie, I think it's pretty decent.
I fucking hate the Phantom Menace. It is boring to me. It is an example of like what not to do for Star Wars, and the fact that they're like, oh, it's a kid's movie, who cares about the fucking dialogue? It's boring. Okay? I have never met a child who wanted to sit down and watch them talk about fucking politics like that.
Yeah.
Like, and that's my biggest problem with the Phantom Menace. As far as a movie, the script is not good. Mm-hmm. But as far as going into the timeline, Darth Maul is kind of the only important thing out of that movie.
Yeah.
Because of Clone Wars. But like what we find in Attack of the Clones, I also hate that movie. But that's besides the point. Attack of the Clones should have been the start.
Yeah.
Because the entire series, well, the entire trilogy is about Anakin falling to the dark side.
Yeah.
But there's no connection between, Anakin as a kid, where the only kind of important thing that you see is him and his mom. And even then, I feel like that's an example of something that you could have history of without showing it.
Okay. Whoa. Before we continue, another important thing, right, is seeing Darth Maul chase after Kid Anakin. It was so important to the movie, I don't care what nobody says.
I think... Fuck you. No, I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. And I hate it because it brings down what the trilogy was supposed to be. A term that I talk about a lot is I guess, the disappointment that I have with the prequels. Because conceptually, from a wide lens, it is a phenomenal story.
Oh, most definitely.
Anakin Skywalker, this war general, this hero, this Jedi, falling to the dark side.
Yeah.
But it's hard because Episode 2 doesn't make me like Anakin. The only thing that I feel like really makes me like Anakin is Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith. And it's going to be its own video. I already wrote the script and everything. I just have to record it. But Anakin Skywalker falling to the dark side is rushed in Revenge of the Sith. Because you go from Attack of the Clones where he gets married to Padme. And sure, you have him slaughter the Sand People and stuff like that. That's kind of showing his fall to the dark side. But you go from this kind of whiny teenager for some, like, good reasons, to, like, his mom dying and stuff, to this very charismatic guy in Episode 3. But Episode 3 really rushes from point A to point B because it's showing Anakin's fall.
Yeah.
So I really think the trilogy would have felt better if it started with Attack of the Clones, had a Clone Wars movie, and ended with Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about, right? I think something, maybe if Disney decides to do it, if, enough people say, hey, give us this, is a rework of the prequels.
I would love that. I would love that. I don't think that they're going to do it because my take is a hot take.
Yeah.
A lot of people have come to really love the prequels for one reason or another. Whether I agree with that or not is clear. But, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
You told me that there's something with the sequels. That they're talking about redoing the sequels.
No, they're not redoing. So this is just what I've heard. I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently they're supposed to be setting lore that separates the prequels and the originals from the sequels to make the sequels a different timeline or universe or something of the sorts, just so then Disney's rendition of Star Wars is separate from George Lucas's. And while part of me really likes it because I don't really like the sequels.
Yeah.
Right? They don't do what George Lucas had intended to do. justice. You know, with Rey being a Palpatine and this, that, and the damn third. It's so much and so confusing.
Again,
right?
spoilers for a 7-year-old movie, by the way.
If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Just be prepared.
No, so again, talking about I think that there are two things that are important to a story. And as our, how would I label your role at Sleepy Cat Films? The reviewer of scripts.
Yeah.
Before they go into production. I think that there are two important things to a script. You have the wide lens.
Yeah.
Which the concept is a good way of putting it. Which conceptually you have the prequels being the fall of Anakin Skywalker, like I said.
Yeah.
But then you have the individual scripts. And I feel like there was no concept, no wide concept for the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't. They didn't really go in with a plan. But I feel like individual scripts wise, they are great. Episode 7 is a really fun time. I just rewatched it. Also, everybody says it's a lot like A New Hope. And it's because it's the hero's journey, which is, like, that's so stupid, that being your argument.
It's such a common trope within movies.
Exactly. Well, I mean, but that being the argument of, like, oh, it's just like A New Hope. Well, so is Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So is A Wizard of Oz. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to those, I need you to genuinely look at the story structure. We don't have enough time to go into detail.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, I think really the big change with it going from the normal hero's journey is the villain being related to the main hero.
Yeah.
And I feel like The Last Jedi, it subverted those expectations. It said she's a nobody. And I love that. But not everybody, I love The Last Jedi. A lot of people hated The Last Jedi so much that they backpedaled into Rise of Skywalker, which both of us mutually think is a fucking terrible movie.
I hate Rise of Skywalker.
So, yeah. Cheers to that. Fuck the Rise of Skywalker. But, yeah. I mean, that's kind of my biggest issue.
Yeah.
With the sequels. Is that there was no concept with the through line of the sequels. And I feel like if they had that, it would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
Just like I feel like if they had gone not in more depth, but they had kind of thought more about the scripts of the prequels, that would have been better.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the original trilogy is so perfect, is you have a great wide lens story where I think Return of the Jedi is kind of separate, and that's why it's the worst one of the original trilogy. But, like, the story of this young man going from a farm boy to a war hero is so awesome. And yeah, so that's all I got to say about that. And I think that's why I like The Last Jedi too, is because you see that war hero, old, grizzled, having dealt with a problem of his own making.
Yeah.
And him having so much pressure on himself that he goes, well, I fucked up. Well, this is the end.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we're going to skip over this mystery section because we're going to keep that for the end. All right,
Sounds good.
Our next section is regarding the upcoming Harry Potter show. Right. There's been so many comments being made about it, especially with casting and the direction that it's going to go in, right?
The fact that the original movies are so popular that a lot of people have labeled it as an unneeded remake.
Yeah. I think the show is going to be a really, really good point in Harry Potter media, right? Because the books, they're great, right? I personally think you got to separate the person from the product, right? J.K. Rowling, not a good person, but she made some really good books, right? And with what we see as an adaptation in the movies based off of the books, it really doesn't give you a whole lot. You get a basic idea, some major plot points here and there, but it doesn't give you what a true live adaptation of something should be. Yeah. With like what is it? With the Killing Joke comic, right? Great comic. I loved it. Everything past
Where is it? I have it up here somewhere. Hold on.
Everything past what happens in like the first, I don't know, 30 minutes of the movie,
Oh,
right?
fuck. I
Is
hate that movie.
But everything past like that certain section, right, is really relevant to the comic, right? It's after Batman and Barbara do their thing, which is hate it, right? Especially because Barbara's supposed to be, one of his pupils.
Yeah.
Right? It's disgusting. It should have never been put in there. Fuck you for putting it in there. Right? But everything after we see Batman enter Arkham, right, is really relevant to the comics, and it's a great film adaptation of a comic, right? So, what we see in the Harry Potter movies, right? Again, they're great. I love them. They're always fun to watch, right? But it just doesn't do the books justice. That's why what I'm hoping for with this show is we get into the nooks and crannies that we didn't get into the movies, right? Obviously, I hope they keep, a lot of the major stuff that happened in the movies, because that's what we grew up with.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we first saw visually with Harry Potter media, right? But there are so many things that are missed out on, and so many things that are not represented enough in the movies that I really want to see in the show, and that's why I'm so excited for the show.
And I agree. I mean, there's so much depth that you get out of a novel. I think both you and I watched the movies before we read the books.
Yeah.
And, I think that there's straight up characters that are skipped out on, like Peeves.
Yeah.
That just, there's so much more that you can do. And what I talked about with you was my mother is a giant Harry Potter fan. And both of our mothers are.
Yeah, they're both manic as well.
And one of the things that I said when it came to, they were both, at least my mom, was like, well, why the hell do we need this? We already got a great adaptation with the books, or with the movies.
Yeah.
She was like, why can't we get a Marauder spinoff? Why can't we get a Voldemort spinoff? And I looked at her and I said, you have to think about it from an audience perspective, right? Where the general audience is going to... Not everyone has seen the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah.
But, going into this new thing, which, by the way, it comes out at the end of this year. Deathly Hallows Part 2, I believe, came out in 2011, which means that it's a 15-year-old movie.
Yeah.
Okay? You know what also came out 15 years... You know what didn't come out 15 years ago?
What?
What hadn't come out yet? Avengers. The first one.
Because that didn't come out till 2015,
2012.
2012, okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot a lot of stuff has changed in the world. But not just that. A lot of people have not watched those movies. So I think what HBO and this show is giving us is something new. And something that kind of dives more into the books. Now, the issue is exactly what you were talking about when it comes to J.K. Rowling. Separating the art from the artist is hard in this case because I don't think you know this. She made a statement that all the money that she makes from Harry Potter goes towards anti-trans companies and stuff, basically. She was, it's ridiculous. I fucking hate J.K. Rowling. Sorry, guys. But they are great stories. You know, Harry, Ron, Hermione, all great characters that we've really had time to bond with. So it's really hard to not be excited, I think. Yeah. And especially with the prospect of there being, you know, spin-offs from this new version, which, again, we're talking about there being spin-offs with the show, as we've seen with Percy Jackson, the series. You can be more on point and accurate to what the story is. So, yeah. I think that the HBO series is important for being more in-depth, more accurate, and also for building up on making spin-offs that we actually want that aren't Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of going back to separating the art from the artist, right? I don't listen to a lot of Kanye, right? He's a Nazi. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah.
Right? But there are certain songs. There's All of the Lights, Flashing Lights, Power, you know, good, you know, songs, right? And especially with the things that, you know, Kanye has said and done, right? It's hard to separate the art from the artist. Yeah. But when you do, it really helps you appreciate and enjoy the art more, right? Because with Rowling being who she is, fuck her, right? Not a good person. I've never supported anything that she does other than make these fucking books, right? But the books are so good, right? I enjoy reading them so much. I constantly go back to reading the books because of how much I enjoy them, right? So while it's really hard to separate the artist from the art, once you do, especially in cases like Rowling and with Kanye, it really just feels good to know that you support the art but not the artist.
I also wanted to point that out because I know we're probably going to get comments about, you know, everything with J.K. Rowling and stuff like that. But I do think that it is important to draw that difference because I think that it's so tough, you know? I mean, fuck. We're going to talk about some in our final segment that we were talking about. I don't hate that person.
Yeah.
But I hate what they make. So, yeah. Also, excuse me.
So, going into our second to last topic, why the big logo works for absolute Batman as opposed to Fat Fleck.
Oh, yeah, okay. Do you want to open this up or do you want me to open this?
I can open it. So, right, Batman v Superman, the Snyder run of the Justice League, right? Fucking hate him. Sorry, that was a little much. Right?
But straight up though, like
they
yeah.
They don't do the justice that is deserved for these characters. Yeah. Right? With the big logo in Affleck's you know, in Affleck being Batman, it doesn't look good. Because it's like when you have a big person and big things on a big person, it just looks boxy, bulky, not good.
Yeah.
Right? That's why like we'll do David Cornsweet's, Superman, for example. He is leaner. He's more on the smaller side, as opposed to some of the things that we've seen with Superman media with him having super big outgoing chest, right? But the logo is big, right? So it's a stark contrast between the person and the face, right? And it doesn't do well for Batman in live action, right? Because with Affleck being as big as he is, right? And with the logo just taking up all of his fucking chest, god damn. You would think it was a patch of hair, right? It's unappealing to the eyes. It doesn't look good, and it's just not good. Now, as opposed to what we see in Absolute Batman, right? I think the reason it works is because it's not live action.
Yeah.
Right? You can draw proportions however you want.
No, that's a good point.
Excuse me. Right? We see Bruce as this middle class working, person, right? He has truly earned his body and where he's at. He works in, he works with the city's water running, right? He works in engineering, all of this, right? He really truly earned what he has, right? And seeing the Absolute Batman logo on him, right? It's not just big, it's big and pointed and like, what's the word?
Useful. It has a use.
It has a use. Not only, is it big, right? It truly strikes fear into.
Well, I mean, it's also a literal fucking axe.
We were gonna get to that, right? But with the pointiness and the sharpness of the logo, pun not intended, it truly strikes fear, as as opposing to Affleck's, right? It's rounded, it's big, it doesn't produce the fear that Batman produces within people, right? But as we've seen in Absolute Batman, right, it really does have its purpose, besides it being a battle axe. Get it? Battle-axe?
Battle, yes.
Right? It really shows the difference between what a symbol of peace but fear is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
I definitely agree with that, especially since I've also been reading the new Batman Matt Fraction run, where I don't know if you've seen his costume. I'll show you after we're off pod, but it's all blue, even the symbol, and it looks awesome. You can go ahead and look it up.
Yeah.
But initially, and kind of even now, I'm not really a big fan of the Absolute Batman symbol, but your animation point is fantastic. I didn't even think about that. But also, I think it works compared to the Batfleck suit because the look of Absolute Batman is different than Ben Affleck's Batman. Where, like, Ben Affleck's Batman, yes, Ben Affleck was in a fantastic shape. It just doesn't look like it with the costume because I don't know what Zack Snyder was thinking with the muscles, but just like I think the Man of Steel suit, the muscles feel fake. And so I feel like it just doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Also, not to mention, I think something that really does help is the fact that it's an Elseworld.
Yeah.
You talked about, the difference in feeling, but not just that. Like, legitimately the fact that I know that it's not mainline Batman with this symbol does help. Ben Affleck was the main Batman for 10 years.
Yeah.
Or pretty much 10 years. It's 2026. I think
Yeah, no,
2015 was when yeah. But well, I mean, unless you count, I guess you would count The Flash as his final thing, which is 2023. Whatever, doesn't matter. My point is that he was basically Batman for 10 years.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was our main Batman was a big fucking problem.
Yeah.
Because what do you mean that not only do we have this bat suit that looks too bulky, but on top of that, the bat symbol is too bulky?
Yeah.
And I think what hurts is it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the prequels. I think that conceptually, the texture of the suit looks great. Like, even though it does look too bulky, I think that the actual like texture is fantastic. The belt looks great. My biggest problem with the suit is two things. One, the ears aren't long enough. They're too damn short. Two, the symbol is too fat.
Yeah.
If it was more of a streamlined, like, Arkham symbol, I think it would be great.
Oh, yeah. Also, another issue that I have, right? Like the texture, I don't like that the suit feels painted on.
Yeah.
Right? It's too tight. It's not like what we've seen with Reeves's Batman where it's actual armor.
Yeah.
Right? Or what we see in Absolute Batman where it's more, you know, you have the suit, but then you have texture to it.
Right.
You have the things that pop out. You have everything that makes a bat suit what it's supposed to be. Right? Now, if we're talking about animation, it can be clean, it can be simple. It's hard to animate with so many different pieces, right? Especially if you're doing like hand-drawing animation and not like rendering with 3D models and stuff, right? It's hard to do that consistently. But what we've seen in the Arkham games, right? Love the games. We see the texture. We see there being pops of armor of what actually keeps Batman alive. Because, you know, in every fanboy and fangirl's mind, Batman is like the ultimate being or whatever, right? He has his Tibetan monk techniques. his not superpowers, right? And we just see him almost as like an immortal being because we very rarely see Batman actually die. He's brought to near-death experiences.
Hell, even when he does get zapped into a fucking skeleton by Darkseid, he just gets sent back in time.
Exactly. Right? He has so much plot armor that we forget that he's just human.
Yeah.
Right? He's not like Superman where his only weakness is green crack. Or like with the Flash where he can just dodge anything by vibrating. That's all it takes for the Flash.
Literally.
Right?
The Flash's weakness is slippery things.
give him like a 20 by 20 feet of just like ground covered in oil. He's not escaping. Right? So that's like my main issue with the Snyder cut films. It's just Batman doesn't feel like truly what Batman should.
Agreed. And I think that brings us great into our final segment. Shitting on Snyder,
Zack, not Scott. So, main difference, Zack, fucky filmmaker, doesn't deserve to exist. Scott Snyder, right? He's great. He wrote Court of Owls. He wrote Batman Metal. Great comic runs.
Black Mirror
too. So, you know, with Snyder, Zack, not Scott. Right? The Justice League movie. I have such a horrible issue with the Justice League movie, with the Flash movie, right? Especially with Ezra fucking Miller, right? Now, that's not necessarily his fault.
It is their fault.
It is their fault as a whole.
No, it is. Ezra Miller's non-binary.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Fuck him. He's not a good person. I'm not going to call him by his
You gotta respect their pronouns. I don't want to get canceled. Respect their
fine.
pronouns.
Right? But with... Well, it's also Snyder's fault for not
casting good.
not casting good and not fixing this, right? In Flash media, right, we see Flash as a runner, right? Not like he's trying to grab fucking rope, right? Because I swear, right, his arm be swinging out all over here, reaching out like there's a hand waiting to grab him, right? And it is so horrible. And fuck Zach for not fixing that. Such a great example of what a live action Flash should look like is the CW run of the Flash, right? While, most of the time it's kind of just him being a blur running, but when we do get those slower shots of and actually seeing the anatomy behind, the Flash, right? It's really such a great representation. Right? And I think the CW did really great with that. And that's why my expectations for what, especially a lot of live action DC should be, is so high. Right?
Just like you.
So, fuck Zach. He is horrible. He makes shitty movies. He makes shitty movies. And he makes really shitty movies. Now, Scott, on the other hand, bless his soul, there is a special place in heaven for this man. Right?
So we have a few examples of some stuff. So we have Watchmen, written by Alan Moore, which had an adaptation by Zack Snyder, which honestly might be the only comic... Well, actually, that's not true. The 300 is a good movie. Mm-hmm. His Watchmen adaptation is also pretty good in my opinion. But to be fair, I've only read a little bit of this book. I'm still working on it. But yeah, it's, from my understanding, parts of it are a good adaptation, parts of it are not. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this, even though I know you can't tell, is Court of Owls by Scott Snyder. Okay, we're gonna just put these down now. This is Court of Owls by Scott Snyder. I'm also working my way through that for the second time. It's been a long time since I've read it. Mm-hmm. But you've read all of it rather recently. So why is Court of Owls a good start for Batman readers?
So I think it's a good start for Batman readers because, one, it goes into not only Batman's longest enemy besides the Joker, but Gotham City's entire enemy. The owls, they have been in the shadow for hundreds of years, right? They run everything underground, despite what you think with the Falcone cartel. They run Gotham, right? And it's such a clear adaptation of what Batman should be, not only as a detective, because a lot of people forget that he's a detective, right? But as Batman, as a man, right? Throughout the comic, right? Especially leading to the end, Batman. I'm not gonna give major spoilers, but we see Batman's mind just deteriorate. He is slowly going down this slope of, just being broken and battered mentally and physically, but, that's not as important as mentally, especially with this run. So it's really great because you see the duality of Batman. You see him as a detective. You see him as a man. You see how what happens to him affects other people. Right? You see the actions that are taken have consequence. because in a lot of media, right, the main character, right, their actions don't have a lot of consequences.
Right.
But in this, his actions in pursuing the court and pursuing what should just be left buried deep takes a toll on his family. Alfred, Dick, he is Nightwing in this, so we are in. We don't really see Robin, so it's either after.
Well, I know that at the beginning of the book, Tim and Damien are there.
Tim and Damien. Okay,
so it's a good bit into Bruce's career, though I do think, if I remember correctly, the New 52 had this weird thing where this is like 5 years into Batman's career, which is very unrealistic.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So, Court of Owls, though, from my understanding, it is a quintessential piece of Batman history. And it has kind of worked its way into being a classic alongside one of my favorite comics of all time, The Long Halloween, books like Dark Victory, Hush, Year One, stuff like that. So, yeah. Now, the last thing that we're going to talk about is Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. I have the compact version. I don't recommend getting it in compact. I recommend getting it normal. It's a good book. I think it's a little, for my Gen Alpha and Gen Z viewers, overglazed. But it's not a bad read. It is pretty good. It is tough to read in compact.
Definitely. Hard on the eyes.
Yeah, but it is good. It is a pretty good read. And it's also supposedly a main point of apparently it's supposed to be a main point of what Ben Affleck's version of Batman was inspired by from Zack Snyder's point of view. It's terrible representation if that's so, because Batman has a scene in this book where he has a shotgun and he goes, "These are the weapons of cowards," and breaks the shotgun over his leg. People at home, if you're a Snyderverse fan, or even if you're not, does that sound like Ben Affleck's Batman? Editor, go ahead and play just the all of the scenes of the Batmobile mowing down people in Batman vs. Superman. Thank you, editor. Yeah.
Long story short, fuck Zack Snyder. Scott Snyder is great. So glad that they're not related, because if they were, I'd feel really bad for Scott. Because I would hate to have.
It would be clear where all of the writing talent went to. Now, don't get me wrong. We might talk about this. I don't think it's a hot take, really. But I think that Zack Snyder would have been a fantastic cinematographer if he had just stayed as a cinematographer. And what proves that, I mean, he's a good director too. As long as he just stays out of the writer's room, perfect. One of my favorite horror movies of all time is Dawn of the Dead. The Zack Snyder version. You know who wrote that?
Who?
James Gunn. And we'll leave it there. No, but seriously. Yeah. So I enjoyed doing this.
Yeah, no, it was definitely fun.
It's what we do on a pretty normal basis, where we just sit down and talk about a ton of nerd shit. But we also, this is us recording it, and I think that kind of, it's a good way of making content.
Give us money, please.
Yeah, please go support us on Patreon. Like and subscribe. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, though. If you want to see more hot takes by the two of us, we'll be back. I have one as kind of a teaser for our next episode, of how Nolan ruined comic book movies. That's definitely not clickbait at all. But yeah. So do you have any social media or anything that you want to shout out, or just anything that's upcoming from Sleepy Cat Films, or anything that you've been involved with that you want to shout out?
No, I can't think of anything.
Go watch Insomnia. Jacob helped direct that and shoot it. It is one of our best looking short films.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if I had a trio, I would direct, you would be the cinematographer, and Braylon would be the writer. And yeah, if you know anybody who you've seen on, the Sleepy Cat Films official podcast, or just on anything else, and you would like to hear their opinions, let us know in the comments down below. Yeah, we have a lot of interesting stuff coming out soon. I know I promised you guys some other podcasts, and we'll probably record an episode of a different podcast after this one. After we have lunch. But, yeah. My name is Logan Murray. I'm a writer and director here. I also run the company. And if you want to find me anywhere, you can follow me at Logan K. Murray on all platforms.
I'm Jacob Dalrymple. I am the script reviewer, head of HR, his right-hand man. I've known him for over a decade now. Almost two. Yeah, I've known you for 14 years?
14 or 15, yeah.
Yeah, so we've been, close for so long. And I've watched him and this company grow, and it's just been a great time. We love all of your support. We, every fan right now is hopefully going to be a fan in the next 20 years.
Because we have in the next 20 years, we have a lot of stuff coming our way.
I mean, it's not wrong, because so much is gonna happen in the next 2 decades.
No, that's so true. All right. Well, I guess that's all from us. Yeah. Thanks for watching our hot takes, and don't forget to stay creative.